Hi, I'm Jonah. This is John, and this is Closer with Christ. Today we're doing an episode where I'm gonna be interviewing John, and we're gonna be he's gonna explain how he became close with God and where he gets his faith from, and how his journey to finding God to where he is today, really started. So,
Yes, sir.
yep. How you feeling today, bro?
I'm feeling good. Feeling good. How about you?
I'm feeling good. Feeling
All
good.
right, bet.
All right. So, first question that I have for you is when did your faith in God actually when did you really start taking God seriously? Yeah.
Well, so I guess first I just say how it's been. So, um, for my whole life up till maybe I was 16, right?
Yeah.
And it got real when I came across a video that was talking about how it was talking about adultery. It was talking about how looking at a woman the wrong way is a lust. And I never really knew that. Like I knew about God. I knew I had like a feeling that he existed, and I was like, I believe that God existed. I believe that Jesus was um maybe not God because I didn't really understand yet, but I believe that like Jesus had to do something with it. But up until that video, I was like, oh wow, that means I've been doing wrong
All this time.
against God, right? Um, so that kind of flipped my view in a way because I always thought of me as someone who is like, well, I'm not hurting anybody, I may not be the best person, but I'm okay, right? But then that really put into perspective, no, I'm not. And after that, I guess more Christian things stopped popping up in my feed. All the Cliff Knetley videos, and I started to understand a little more. Um, and I was like, "Hey, mom, why don't we go to church?" So we went to church every now and then, and eventually, um, it got to a point to where I asked God, because this is around 2023 Christmas. So 2023 Christmas and 2024 January, around this time, we're getting off school break. We're in our junior year. We're starting our second semester. And I was thinking, you know, like give me like opportunities, right? And just like one after the other, opportunities came to me, and that's when I was like, I got like that conviction where
You
Jesus was
said
God.
around junior year.
It was junior year.
Junior
It
year?
was around. It was January of 2024
Okay.
when I know that was like the best month of my life. And it maybe the end of 2023 when I gave my life to him, but I think it was probably like 2024 where
So
I did.
when was that point where you start getting interested in God? Like that's that first starting point where you were like, because were you raised in the church?
Within the Catholic Church,
Okay.
which is, it's you believe in the Holy Trinity. The big thing is um faith alone versus faith and works. Is It isn't exactly what they believe, but I kind of simplified it.
Yeah.
So there is like differences between like what is biblical in the 66 book canon versus their 73.
Yeah.
Um, but it's yeah. What was your question? When did it
Yeah.
when
When
did it
was
start?
the first
So you're
the
talking like
first
when I
time?
watched that
Yeah.
video
Yeah.
where
Or
it
when you
said
were
let's move on.
when you really wanted to get to know God, where you were
I don't
okay,
think
I want to take God seriously, I want to,
I don't think there was a point where I was like,
conviction, when you felt
there was
convicted.
conviction. I think that was January 2024.
Yeah.
But where I say that's the best month of my life. But there wasn't like I gotta get into my Bible now. Actually maybe there was a little bit of that because I remember I told you how I read the book of
Yeah.
John in class, and I think it was around that time. So maybe there was a bit of that, but there was nothing like this. I need to get to know God. It was I had the conviction. I just never.
Like, did anything like
I mean,
obey?
I did
Mm,
things. You know, I I I saw what God was doing in my life, right?
mm,
So I just never did the typical, oh, read Bible or um go to church,
mm,
right? So that there wasn't that there, but there was a conviction.
uh,
Um
yeah.
yeah, I don't yeah, I'm not sure how I know I could give a better answer on that, but
No,
that's
it's all
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like, yeah. That's what I wanted to know. Just like how you started, because I know many people like me. I was raised in the church, so that's how I kind of learned about God. So you said you were raised in the Catholic Church, so you were
But I
kind of
never really learned
learned
about
about
God
God.
because I was
Mm,
when you go in there and you learn. I mean, I learned about the Old Testament
mm,
1 year, but I never like continued to learn and
yeah.
stuff. So I knew like you watch Prince of Egypt with
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Moses.
yeah, yeah.
Like
I watched it.
I knew like
Yeah, it's
that
a
type
good
of
movie.
stuff. I knew that
Yeah,
type of stuff. Um, but I didn't know much. I didn't really understand who
yeah.
God was. What I didn't understand. I like
Vague, like
the only
vaguely.
commandment I could remember is thou shalt not murder, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't really understand everything. I just and when I went to church, I wasn't listening.
You were
So
just there because your
yeah,
parents. So did you guys like go every week, like a week
we'd
per
go
week?
every week,
Mm,
but the problem was I mean I'd go in there and I'd like be yawning and like
yeah,
I remember
tired.
sometimes I would try to listen, but
You didn't just understand.
I
Yeah,
just
I
couldn't.
know how it is.
Then when COVID came around, we just stopped.
Mm,
So that kind of left my life completely.
yeah,
So like, I'm 12 and just never
yeah. I forgot. It's been 6 years. We were 12 years old when COVID started.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
feel old because I was thinking about you said COVID started and I was 12, and I was like thinking about it. I was like, dang, yeah. So, like,
But that's kind of so I didn't really understand nothing.
mm,
I understand it a bit, but
yeah,
so we stopped going to church, and then like 4 years later, I'm 16.
mm,
It's not a thought on my mind about God.
and then a video.
A video, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's crazy how God works. Like God uses things like videos and social media to like reach people. So like what did you do? Like what would you do? Like what would you start doing like when you wanted to be close? Like what was your first like kind of steps to learning more about God and like obeying him and just living a more godly life? What were like the first steps you took to become the man that God wants you and the man that he wants you to be. Like what were the first steps?
I feel like I'm gonna talk about because it's kind of hard. My journey's been weird, but like
Mm,
I'd say like for the past like maybe like sometime in January this
yeah,
year, um, I was like, okay, reading Bible,
yeah,
starting this,
mm,
um, but it all started with prayer, right?
yeah.
Because yeah, it all started with
With
prayer.
prayer, yeah,
It
and
all starts with prayer,
that's
and then
where
I feel
everything
like Bible,
starts.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's where everything like
so that was the
comes
first
from.
step, yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think like was the hardest thing? The hardest thing, like
Getting
January 2025
four,
or
2024.
2024, like what was the hardest thing like that when you first started getting close to God, what was the hardest thing to like that you had to overcome, like the
It
biggest
wa-
obstacles you had to
it
overcome?
wasn't hard at all because I had God with me.
Mm,
But then, uh, because I wasn't reading the Bible, because
yeah,
He wasn't on my head, uh, for some amount of time,
yeah,
um, it was pornography. That was the
mm,
so it wasn't there wasn't any problem,
mm,
um, until uh God. just I wasn't spending that time with him.
With God,
Yeah.
So you said pornography and stuff like that. So lust,
Yeah.
specifically, like how did you do you still struggle with like do you still have struggles with it, or have you like made like are you good like kind of better now where you're so strong with God?
I do, but I think I'm better now.
Yeah,
Um and I wouldn't even say I'm better now. I would just say that my eyes are on God now.
God, exactly. Yeah.
Because as long as God is in your life,
Mhm.
you let God in your life,
Exactly.
um, you won't have to deal with that because He will.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah, and that reminds me of that scripture. I forgot what scripture is this, but it says, "Fix your eyes on things above, and
mhm.
not on worldly things." So, if you're struggling with any type of sins or anything like John did, and like John was saying, you want to fix your eyes on God, and I noticed that helps with me too. So that's real good, bro.
Yeah. And I know I like recently so a couple months ago when I starting this back up, getting into my Bible, just
Mm,
doing things like, okay, now I'm in it. I gotta I'm gonna do these. I'm gonna
yeah,
be more biblical. I'm gonna uh be a godly man, right?
yeah,
And when I started that, it may be a month ago when I realized that like um it wasn't just lust that I've been dealing with. It's also I may have thought of myself as an honest person, but it's
mm,
also dishonesty,
yeah,
right? Even though like things may be little white lies, it's still dishonesty,
yeah,
and it's just a bad habit.
yeah,
And now I'm in that. It's also lying to myself, thinking
yeah.
um I think I mentioned it. What I think I
Like,
may have mentioned it in my interview with you,
yeah,
um, where or your interview with me,
mm,
where what was I saying?
you're so
Oh,
yeah,
dishonesty.
mm,
Where like I felt as if I was lying to close ones that um
everything was fine.
yeah, like you said like, oh, like you have everything under control. I remember you
Yeah,
said that. It was just like I just wasn't showing where I was going. Because me, I like to stay to myself. I like
yeah,
to stay in my lane and just like do me and
mm,
work hard. And that kind of when I realized that, I was like, okay, I gotta be honest. And I think since then I've been
pretty
pretty
honest with
honest.
yourself.
So dishonesty is something like through my whole life, like now that I'm thinking about it, like yeah, I've been dishonest.
Mm,
So now it's crazy because I didn't think I was struggling with that, but
yeah,
like
but once you got closer to God, you start seeing that you were
yeah,
struggling.
yeah.
Yeah, that's how God works. Yeah, and too, I know that you did wrestling too. Like I said, and when I did my podcast, like how sports like help shape, my
Hmm.
faith with God. Did wrestling help with any way with your faith
Definitely.
in God, any sports?
um I got closer to God
Mm-hmm.
because of wrestling. And I only wrestled one season back in January of
Mm-hmm.
2024 when I gave my life to Christ.
Yeah,
um I was like, hey, I want to do wrestling because I have two friends who did wrestling. And I got close to them,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, I asked them about it, and I was like, I always thought it was like pretty cool. I was like, to because I didn't really know exactly what wrestling was, but I knew you had to pin them by getting their shoulder blades on the
Yeah,
ground and controlling them, and I knew what like some takedowns, right?
mm-hmm.
But um, I don't really know, so I was just asking them about it, and they were just saying it's like the hardest thing, and I was thinking like, man, and I was scared. I was like, it's this the hardest thing, right? This is the
Yeah,
hardest sport ever.
yeah,
And like what if like I can't take it. They're telling me like how they're throwing up and
yeah,
whatever. Just they turn the heat up and it's just this terrible conditioning,
yeah,
right? Um then I was like, I gotta try this. Like what if I don't do it? Like if
mm,
I do it and I'm just terrible, then
then that's what
that's
it
it,
is.
you
Yeah,
know.
but
Um,
you wanted to get like that experience and like
it was
you
something
had nothing to
difficult I wanted to
lose.
do,
Yeah.
and I was pretty interested in it, so I did it. And I started training, and I got beat up. Like, I was
Mm.
terrible. I still think I'm pretty terrible, but um, there was only like a couple practices a week during the off season, so that's where
Yeah.
I'd go. But then I was inconsistent because, like, I think for like 3 months I didn't go to a practice because I went on vacation and I just never went back.
Mm.
But when the school season started, I went back, and I didn't want to go back
Yeah.
because I went back and I was like, man, I felt like I was back at square one, like
Yeah.
where
Out
I
of shape.
started
Yeah.
in the beginning. I felt like
Mm.
those 3 months, where I took a break, I was like, man, I'm not even like getting any better. I
Yeah.
didn't think I was getting any better, right? But uh, the way God worked with me with wrestling is is like very cool because I didn't want to go. Then
Mm.
I was telling myself, I don't want to go, right? I'm just gonna uh, do my regular senior year,
Yeah.
right? Um, then I think my mom's like, "Oh, you should just do it. You know, it's your
Yeah.
last year."
Yeah. Senior year.
Um, and my mom was like, doesn't even know what the sport is, right?
Mm.
And is like wrestling. She's thinking WWE. She's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And
Not real wrestling.
no, no, not at
Yeah.
all. And eventually, um, during school, someone's like, "Hey, when you gonna come back to practice?" And I was like,
Yeah.
I just said today, or like, or I just said, oh yeah, or no, not today. I said, oh yeah, I'll just come for the tryout, whatever.
Mm.
Uh, so it wasn't a tryout really. It was like you try wrestling for a week is what it
Yeah.
was. So I did that, and I just kept on going. And then I was like, I'll just wrestle the first novice tournament,
Mm.
and see how
Man,
I do.
how'd that novice
And
tournament go, bro?
um, it started rough. Um,
Did you get beat up, bro? The first
Um,
couple matches?
so for the first match, I'm just really anxious, and
Yeah.
I think most of these guys were like pretty bigger than me.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, I went out there and I was just in the wrong mindset. Not that like I was so anxious, like I was really nervous,
Yeah.
but I think I was better than and I'm saying this like at a novice tournament, like
Mm.
everybody is terrible, so it's like you
Yeah.
can't really be better than another person. But um, I think that first match would have went differently if because like my family was down and they were watching me. I was feeling like they were in my head. I was like, I just wanted them to be in like the bleachers,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
like I just wanted to focus,
Yeah. You
right?
had a hard
And
time.
I didn't focus, and he rushed at me, and I remember he took me down. I think it was the second period where
Mm.
I almost took him down,
Mm.
but I still don't really know the rules. This is where I'm learning the rules, right?
Yeah.
And there's a circle, right?
Mm.
That you have to be in. I was thinking like as soon as you step out,
Yeah.
you're out. But so I stopped wrestling, but the guy
Mm.
continued
He
wrestling
continued. Yeah.
because that's not the way it works. As long as you have like a foot in, you're
Yeah.
still
It
in.
still goes.
And he pinned me, and I was like really just angry with myself. The
Mm.
second match, which is probably one of my favorite, I think my favorite match out of all of the
Mm.
matches I've
Is it the
wrestled.
one where you body slammed him?
I did. So
Yeah.
the whole match, I was pretty much dominating him. Someone told me like, "Oh, dude, you were up like 10-0, like
Mm.
or like maybe 13-0 or
Yeah.
something." And um, what happened was I went out there and someone told me, dude, if you lose, you lose, whatever, right?
Mm.
But don't let them just do whatever they want to you.
Yeah.
Go out there and fight.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So he grabbed a hold of my leg, and I did some like really JV stuff, but I took him down. And then I kept on just slamming him to the ground. And then eventually, I he almost had me pinned, Then I reversed it and I pinned him. I was looking at the video. I pinned him, and the ref was just a little too slow to see it. He got up, and when he got up, I picked him up and I slammed him down. And I think that's where I fell in love with the sport. Um, Anyways, I think I was speaking a little too long on that, but he right after I took him down, he pinned me. So I went 0-2. Then the third match I won. I picked that guy up too. Fourth match I lost. Fifth match, um, I dominated that guy too. But so I went two wins, 3 losses that first novice tournament.
So you think it should have been 3 wins and 2 losses though?
It probably should have been. It probably should have been 4 wins and 2 losses.
I mean 1 loss.
What happened?
4 wins and 1 loss.
Yeah, 4 wins and 1 loss. But that's the way that went. Anyways, how wrestling like related to my journey with Christ is that. So after that, I was like, man, this sport's pretty cool. So I just kept in it because I was thinking, man, I don't even want to do this. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing it now. Then. There's all the JV tournaments. I'm winning one, I'm losing one. And my coach told me, you could. So I was wrestling at like 132. My coach told me, you could wrestle all the way down to 106. And I was like, that's light. And like, if I go to 106 or 113, I'm on varsity, right? So it's in my head now. But I think I was like, whatever. Then I was like, you know what? This is my last season, or this is my only season I'm ever going to have. So I'm going to just do it. So I tried cutting from so I went 132, 128. I went 128 to 122. And that was really hard to cut those pounds. Because it's in season. When it's in season, it's really hard to cut, and it's then at 122, I tried cutting down to 113, and I couldn't do it, right? I could not do it. And it was a struggle, and I didn't want to do it. Then I had a fever, and I couldn't heal from that fever because I'm trying to lose weight. I'm not eating any food, so I'm not getting any nutrients.
You're like malnourished,
and so it sucked. But then I think it was my senior night where my coach was like, and John's cutting all the way down to 113 for us because we're getting points as a team and stuff. And I was like, when he said that, because I was gonna tell him that day
that you weren't gonna do.
I wasn't gonna do it. Which is another way where God just keeps.
It's making you pushing you when you don't want to.
Yeah. So I did it, and I went down to 115, and
you had to be 113
and that was
exactly.
And that was for B-Val. So this is the league tournament. I made 115. I was maybe a pound under, and it's the lightest I've been. So I go there and it's like, okay, now I need to win 1 match to go to NCS, and I win that 1 match.
That's
and that's where my wrestling journey ended.
So how do you think God used wrestling to strengthen your faith?
It was just a show that I could do hard things.
That's good.
I could do hard things. I never done anything that hard in my life, but I'm looking at the time now. It's 24 minutes. I spent like a long time talking about that.
This is good all day.
But that's how that went, right? And I wasn't really as good as I could have been. I still I was, by the end of the wrestling season, my conditioning was still so bad because I was still gassing out because I got sick once I started to get good. So I was sick for a whole month. Then of course once wrestling season ends, that's when I'm eating, and then that's when I'm no longer sick.
Yeah, you're healthy.
And I think at that point I probably would have been better at wrestling.
Yeah.
But it was just showing, I think God just showing me that, hey, you can do hard things, right?
Yeah.
Nothing is impossible.
Exactly.
So that's what the overarching story of that was.
Just that nothing's impossible.
Yeah.
That's good, bro. Yeah, and two, one thing I was gonna say is that sometimes God pushes us to go through hard things in life just to, make us better, whether it's like through sports or through, life lessons and stuff like that. God always uses stuff, to kind of, strengthen you, even though it might feel hard, like a storm, you know, God is going to always, help you get through that storm. Yeah. So how do you think, how do you think like certain things, like how do you stay away from certain things that pull you away from God? Like what things pull you away
Like
from God?
sin?
Yeah, like I know you said earlier you keep your eyes on God.
That'd be exact.
What
like prayer, like
physical things?
like reading Bible,
Yeah.
like yeah, I'd say like um the was it Romans 9 or 11, where it's like the same spirit that rose Jesus from the dead lives in us,
Lives in us.
and I always think of Peter when he's walking on water, and I'm like, man, if you just got to keep your eyes on God, right? And though it's hard to say what that is, but my best explanation would be pray, like have God on your mind, right?
And get to the point where like all you're doing,
everything glorifies God.
All you do is glorifying God, and that you read your word to the point where like everything you do, you're thinking about God. Like that's how I feel like I am. Like whenever I go to do something, or do stuff, I always ask myself like is this gonna glorify God? And sometimes I know it's not, so I stay away from it. But sometimes I do fall, but it's about how you get back up. So that was gonna lead to my next question. Like when you do mess up or mess up, how do you bounce back from that? Like what steps do you take to like bounce back from that? Because we all
So
fall,
I wanna do an episode on that actually, and I wanna bring up Romans chapter 6, because it talks about how we are dead to sin, right? If you are a Christian, and you fail, because you didn't have your eyes on God, don't be ashamed of yourself. Shame is that's the enemy, right? And that's one thing that like I've been, for the past 2 years, I've been so shameful. But I think Romans 6 helps with that, right? And we are dead to sin, right? Jesus Christ already died on the cross, and he raised from the dead. Right? Our we our sins aren't too much for Jesus.
Because he already knew what we were gonna do before it happened.
Past, present, and future, he took it all. And
and I have Romans 6 too right here, like you were saying. Verse 2 said, or verse 1 through 2, it's one of my favorite things. It says, well then shall we keep on sinning so that God can show us more and more of his wonderful grace. And it says, of course not, since we have died to sin, how can we continue to live in it? Or have you forgotten that when we were joined with Christ in baptism, we joined him in his death? For we died and buried with Christ by baptism. And just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glorious power of the Father, now we may also live new lives. So it's saying that we shouldn't take advantage of God's grace. Like we shouldn't take advantage of God's grace. But when we do sin and fall down, we need to remember that, that we're one with Christ, and He died for our sins. So we need to, come back stronger, knowing that, that God's not like angry with us. He just wants us to come back to Him.
Yeah, so I mean the whole book of Romans actually is like great with this topic, but like when you do fall and you're already, you're already Christian, you do fall and you feel that shame, or maybe you don't even
you feel this. If
oh yeah, actually you feel that shame. I don't know why you
That's
don't.
the Holy
No,
Spirit.
you
That's the
feel
Holy
that shame.
Spirit. Yeah, you feel it. It's not really
Not
shame,
only
it's
does
conviction. I feel like there's a difference between shame and conviction. Conviction is more like the Holy Spirit nudging you to do something. Shame comes from the enemy, because God doesn't want us to be shameful. He wants us to feel convicted, which is a difference. Like conviction is okay, yeah, I messed up. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it right. I'm gonna get back with you. While shame makes you feel sorry for yourself, almost like it makes you feel sorry for yourself, but like
you're not good enough.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
this
You're
and
not
that.
good enough.
But hey,
God doesn't want
Christ
that.
already did His job,
God doesn't
right?
want you to.
And that's just, and at that point, that's just doubting God, and that just leads you down a
Yeah.
further rabbit hole where you
Yeah.
continue,
Exactly.
right? And I was there, right? So I think Romans 6 combats that shame from the enemy, and I think in Romans 5:8, while we were
Yet
still
sinners.
sinners, Christ died for us. But God shows His love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So it's not just okay. So there's okay. Don't be shameful anymore. That's what that is, right? But then there's also, hey, while you were at your weakest, Jesus Christ died for you. So there's also that love. So you get that, and then you get the love in Romans 5. Yeah. So that would be what I'd say.
And so, like, what would your advice be for someone who's our age and trying to get closer to God through your experience? Like, what would you, say to someone watching the podcast that, is interested in knowing God, but just doesn't know where to start? Or someone who's just watching the podcast just because they know us and, they might not want something to do with God, but, they're just a little bit interested. How would you?
So this is someone who doesn't believe, or also people who believe,
kind of
but
both.
they
Like
just
like someone who's just like.
So I want to target it differently. So first, I want to go to the person who doesn't believe. So the person who doesn't believe, I would say, don't don't have your opinion, then back it up. Have the evidence, then see where your opinion goes. Right?
So
Don't
say that again from the beginning. We gotta break that one. We gotta break that down.
Don't have your opinion. Don't already come to your conclusion. Then find the evidence for that, or try to back that up. Look at the evidence, and then follow where that leads.
So like what he's
and
saying
make your
is,
opinion.
Don't try to defend your opinion. Defend you. If you have your opinion, that's fine. You have your opinion, but don't try to defend it, because just because it's your opinion doesn't mean it's right. He's saying go get evidence
and
that
then
supports your opinion, and then defend that evidence that supports your opinion.
It's when you read, like let's say, like when we were in history class, when you read history, you're there to learn. You're learning about history. You're not having this opinion based off and this analogy doesn't really work as well, because I don't know how to drive this point across, but based off where we are today, don't have this like, okay, so this is what happened. I then not know what exactly happened.
So it's like going up to a history teacher and giving them you're saying, let's just go for example, the Roman times or whatever. You're going up to the history teacher and saying, Caesar didn't exist because I don't think he existed.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he doesn't exist. Not because there's facts that prove. It's just because my personal opinion, I don't believe he exists. So that means he doesn't exist for you and everyone because that's my opinion. So is that what you're trying to say? Like something like
It's also like let's say let's go political, like if you lean away, then you always heard this and this is how you believe, then you go back and you see something, you're like, wait, but this is not what I believe. First go to that, then look where that where that leads, right? And so in a Christian context, that is, you're like, I don't really believe God exists. Well, your evidence is what you've already came up with, right? I'm not saying go follow well, I am saying go follow the evidence for why Christianity is true, right? Um, but you have to follow and look at what are the not the attacks on Christianity, but what are the key points that you need to look at, right? You could attack, oh, this is a contradiction. Um, I don't really, I don't think I've seen a contradiction, but anyways, you could go that way. But what I'm saying to you is go the way of uh well, do we even know the Bible is reliable? So you go, okay, is the Bible reliable? Okay, let's say the Bible is reliable and that's where the evidence leads for you. Then you go, okay, what are the possible motivations of the people who wrote the Gospels, right? Then you're like, okay, they were telling the truth because, well, I mean, they died for what they saw, right? And they didn't get any fame or well, I mean, they got fame, but I mean, they didn't get any glory during their times as humans, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And so you're like,
And
okay,
they didn't get their
motivations
fame until they died. Like they weren't famous. They were hated. Like they went to death being hated. They didn't know that they were gonna be famous. Like they went to death. Like when they that moment they died, they were hated. They didn't think anybody liked them. So they're famous now, but they never got to experience like that fame, or they wouldn't even know that they're famed. So they were just going off. They weren't doing it for fame, because
No.
they weren't famous. They were hated.
Yeah. So there's Bible reliability. Let's say you believe that's true. Okay, you believe that's true. Then you have motivations. Let's say you believe that's true. Okay, you got the motivations are down. Then you look at what's in there, and you're like, okay, this guy claimed to be God, and this guy fulfilled prophecies, and this guy said he was gonna die and raise from the dead, and he did that. Um, then you make your decision, right? um so that's the line of evidence you have to follow, right? You say yes or no to that. You don't attack, you don't look for attacks on that. You could look for attacks on biblical
Yeah.
reliability, then motivations, then what's in there. Don't go to don't mix it up, right?
Yeah.
Follow the line of evidence is what I'd say.
Yeah.
And let's say you do just, I don't believe this and whatever, and I don't want to, so let's look at the evidence. Still go down that path, and I want to see you target it at that path instead of at whatever. And yeah, so that'd be my
Yeah.
answer to the non-believer. To the
Yeah.
believer, that like
They're
let's
struggling.
struggle. Would you they're Christian or
Oh yeah, they're Christian.
okay.
They know God, but they know what they're doing is wrong. But they're still struggling. With lust, temptation, going out,
Uh-huh.
partying, drinking, smoking. They know they're not supposed to be doing it, but every night, they fall into temptation. What's your message to them?
So obviously we spoke on Romans 5 and 6. But I also, so it's crazy because it was like almost 2 months ago when I recorded the interview with Mateo, and I'm gonna be releasing that next week. So you guys will be seeing that next week, and you'll see in there that I bring up these same verses. Uh, but in Mark chapter 9, there is a father, and this father has a son. The son of this father is he has this spirit possessing him. The son is possessed by the spirit, and uh, the father goes to the disciples of Jesus, and they were not able to cast him out. So the father goes to Jesus, and he says that Jesus is like, "Oh, faithless generation, um,
Mm.
how long am I to bear with you?" He says, "Bring the boy to me." So the father brings the boy to him, and the spirit sees Jesus, and immediately the boy
Released all the
falls
way.
to the ground. He's foaming at the mouth, and that's what happens. And Jesus says, "Oh, how long has this been happening to him?" And the father says, "Since childhood. This has been happening to my son since childhood." And the spirit would throw him into fires. He would foam at the mouth. All these bad things he lists off. And then he tells Jesus, "But if you can, help us and have compassion on us and help us." Then Jesus responds, "But if you can, all things are possible for one who believes."
Mm-hmm.
And the father responds, "I believe, help my unbelief."
Yeah.
And so right there, I believe, help my unbelief. Go to God, say, I believe, um, but there's something holding me back, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about that shame of sin and going down that rabbit hole. We already talked about that. So
Yeah.
if you have that in your mind, then you have um it's doubt. If you have a shame, it's doubt. You're doubting what God did on the cross. So so you have unbelief. So go to God, say, "I believe, help my unbelief." And Jesus goes on to rebuke the unclean spirit,
Yeah.
and the boy looks dead, uh, but Jesus raises him up to
Yeah.
his own 2 feet.
Yeah. And two, one thing I would say for, unbeliever, or I mean, a believer that's struggling with any type of sort of temptation is that, even though you fail, don't ever think that God is mad at you.
Yeah, yeah.
The a story I like going to is the story of the son. He wanted his inheritance, and so basically, this father, he was very rich and wealthy. He had two sons, and his youngest son asked, back in the day, the kids, they used to get an inheritance from their children. I mean, their children got an inheritance from their fathers.
Hmm.
So that the youngest child, his dad, because usually you get the inheritance when your dad passes away, or the person you're getting the inheritance from when they pass away. But the youngest child said, "Hey, Dad, I want my inheritance right now. I want to leave. I want to get away from you guys. I want to, I want to be away from you. Like, I'm basically saying I want you dead,
Hmm.
so I could get my money and I could go live my life. Like, I want nothing to do with you." So the father, he says, "Okay, my son, you could take your inheritance," and he basically gives him the inheritance. So the son, he goes, he lives lavishly, buys people stuff, gets a lot of friends. Basically, like in this culture, the social media influencers, you see the life that they're
Hmm.
living, like that's the life he was living back then. Friends, and just like going crazy with money, having fun, buying women, like prostitutes, and just living in sin, living a life that's probably not the best life you should be living. So he ends up spending all his money, and the same people that he was hanging around when he spent his money, that he asked them to help him, they wouldn't help him.
Hmm.
Because they want him for his money. Like most people now in life, if you don't have something that's going to benefit them, they're not going to be there for you. They're not going to be a real friend. They're just fake, and they want, They want you for your what you provide them. So basically, he had no one to turn to, and it got so bad to a point where he went to a pigsty, a farmer at a pigsty, and he asked the farmer. He was like, "Man, please just let me eat what the pigs eat." And mind you, pigs eat all like sorts of nasty stuff. Like it's not even really food. It's just a bunch of random stuff. And he was saying, "Let me eat some of that stuff. Like let me eat what the pigs are eating because I'm so hungry. I have nowhere to stay. Let me sleep with the pigs." So he sleeps with the pigs and everything. And the thought goes through his head that says, I would be better off serving my father as one of my father's servants than I am living this life right now. So he he says in his head that I'm gonna go back to my dad and I'm gonna ask him to be his servant. I don't like I already know that he's gonna disown me or not want me to be his son. Like I already know. So I'm just gonna go ask him to just be a servant because it's better than living with pigs, that's for sure. So he goes back and he and his father runs out and greets him and hugs him with open arms and celebrates his return and says, "My child was lost, my son was lost, and now he's found." He went out to the world, but he's come back to me, and he's back home basically. And that instead of the father being mad and upset at the son, he gave love to the son. He bought him. They had a feast, and they were just like how he was happy. It was basically the opposite reaction that the son thought his father would have. Like his father still loved him just like before everything that happened. So all that whole story goes to say that like you might feel like God is mad at you. You might go out in the world, you might go sin, you might fall down, but when you get back up, it's important that you remember that God still loves you, and all he wants, he's not mad at you, but all he wants you to do is just to go and run back to him, and he'll embrace you with open arms, and he'll help you um, become, he'll help you become the person that you were meant to be. He's not gonna be mad at you. Most people think that God is gonna be so mad and not want nothing to do with them because they feel shame, and that's why the devil gives us shame. Because we feel like we're not worthy enough of God's love. But God's love is, everlasting. And so for any believers that are just like struggling right now, that's my message to you, is just to you're gonna mess up. You're gonna fall down, you're gonna slip up, but don't think that you know that God is too far away from you. Like you could run, like you get like as far away as God as possible, and you could still come back to Him. Like I've heard testimonies of people doing witchcraft and worshiping Satan, and now they're Christians.
Paul.
Yeah, Paul. Like it's crazy. Like you're never too far gone from God. There's literally nothing you could do in this world where that will make you not be able to have a relationship with God. So especially those believers, if you're a believer right now and you're sinning and you're messing up and you know what you're doing, just go back to God and get back right with Him, because He's going to forgive you of your sin, and He just wants you to do better. So yeah, that's my message. Just know that you're never too far gone from God, and that God loves you, and that I've dealt with it personally, so that's why it's so deep with me, because I felt like I'm not worthy of God's love, and I know you felt that way too, where you just like, it's like you wanted nothing to do with God, not because you didn't love God, but because you felt like you were unworthy of God's love and God's grace. That's something I've been through, and I feel like every Christian goes through.
Yeah. I wanted to because this goes back to what I said earlier with Romans 5:8. But if you go back a couple of verses before, at verse 6, it says, "For while we were still weak, at the right time Christ died for the ungodly. For one will scarcely die for a righteous person, though perhaps for a good person one would even dare to die. For a good person, one would even dare to die for that person. For a righteous person, maybe. For a good person, rarely. And then it says, but God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And then the following verse says, since therefore we have now been justified by his blood, much more shall we be saved by him from the wrath of God. So it keeps on, like, I always think of this. I feel like every episode I'm gonna keep on going back to Romans 5:8 and Mark 9:22
Yeah.
because I said it on the Mateo interview, which was like 2 months ago. I said it. I keep on mentioning it to people. I mentioned it to Raul. I'm mentioning it here today. I don't know why those two like passages in the Bible. I always think of those two. And I think you guys will see that. But yeah, it's you're not too far gone. God is here, and Christ died on the cross, but he raised from the dead as well. And your sin isn't greater than the sacrifice of God. And he raised from the dead. Imagine what he can do to you. You know, I also the reason why I'm a big motivator in continuing this podcast is so people can see the change in me. You know, I saw that Wes Huff said, this was like a few weeks ago, Wes Huff said, there's 5 gospels. There's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then there's you. And, you know, gospel means good news. So people may not be reading Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but they're going to be reading me. They're going to be seeing how I am. They're going to be seeing my characteristics.
Good,
and if they see me where I was 3-4 years ago, they see the change.
That'll motivate them.
It's definitely that's what I kind of want to show with this. You know, I may not be Cliff Knetley when it comes to preaching. I may not be whatever debater. So for this podcast, maybe I'm not going to be like that, but I can show my growth, right?
Yeah.
So that was a big thing in my motivation for this podcast.
That's good, bro.
Do you
So now as we get, closer to closing, but I still have some fun. I have some fun questions.
Okay.
So this is just some fun questions. If Jesus showed up to one of your wrestling matches, what would you want to say to him after the match?
After the match?
After you get
I was
whooped.
like, hey, after I get whooped?
After you get whooped, what would you say?
Oh, I'd be like, is this what you did to Jacob, bro? Like, is this? Because that's what his sermon was on a couple of weeks ago. He said Jacob was wrestling with God, right?
With God, exactly.
So, and he got whooped.
Yeah.
So I was like, is it the same way? Like,
did I do better than him at least?
I do better than him.
That actually ties into my second question. If you could talk to any person in the Bible besides Jesus, who would it be?
So my first thought is Paul. Because I feel like maybe I could have a better answer, but like my first thought is Paul because he was killing Christians.
Yeah, that is crazy. He was killing. That's insane.
You know, you look at me and look at Jonah, and then imagine someone. I'm just saying, like someone just murking us, right?
Just killing us just because we believe in God. That's crazy. That's crazy to think about.
That same person writes most of the New Testament and is such a big is like the vessel he is just Christ has done so much with them, right?
Yeah.
So him that's my first thought because of that.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
Turnaround and like the everything about that.
It's crazy to think about how he was literally killing people, and God still used him to become one of the greatest prophets. Like that, it's just like, man, it's like you can't even process that.
Who else in the Bible would I like to besides Jesus?
Man, what about Jonah, bro?
Hey, what about John? Man, I'd like to. I need to go to Adam and Eve and be like, hey,
Man,
no, I'm playing.
nah, for real.
But I think, I think, like maybe Moses. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like with me,
But
my
definitely
first
Paul.
person would probably the first person I would probably talk to is not Matthew. Yeah, Matthew. Yeah, Matthew.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matthew. Probably Matthew. And then the second person, I would talk to is just I don't even know. That is a hard one. Like the second person you can talk to anybody. But probably Matthew and Solomon. Solomon. Yeah, I would go to Solomon or David. Solomon or David. I
David's
gotta
a
go
good
old.
one. I was thinking Old Testament, and I was like,
gotta
all I
go
can
Old
think of
Testament.
is like Moses,
Yeah.
and I was like, wait,
Solomon
hold
and
up,
David.
yeah.
Solomon and
Man, the
David.
other,
Or Joseph. Even Joseph, man. Like Solomon, David, or Joseph. I will talk to one of them, man.
yeah.
And then get ended off on this one, but what's your favorite Bible verse and why?
Okay, so you guys will see this in the Mateo interview, where I mentioned both of these verses in the video. I already mentioned it here, and I think my answer was Romans 5:8, where I said that 5 verses 6 through 8, right?
Yeah, you want to read it real quick? Get the
Yeah.
let's get the whole book. So you said Romans
chapter 5, verses 6
5,
through 8.
6
For
through 8.
while we were still weak, at the right time Christ died for the ungodly. For one will scarcely die for a righteous person, though perhaps for a good person one would even dare to die. But God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And but the reason why that was my answer then, okay? But now which I also mentioned in that episode, I would say Mark 9:22.
Mark
Because
9:22 you said?
yeah, because you still get that you get a bit of Philippians 4:13 in there. You get a little bit of there's a little humor I can get from it, and there's also um hope, right? It's just like a really good mix of things. So that's the passage where I talked about the Father and the Son who has a spirit, and Jesus rebukes the spirit. But specifically, Mark 9 verse 21 says, and Jesus asked his Father, how long has this been happening to him? He says, from childhood. And then he continues to say what the Spirit's done to his Son. Then verse 22, the Father says, but if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Verse 23, Jesus says, if you can, all things are possible for one who believes. So that's the Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. All things are possible for one who believes, right? But you also get a little humorous in if you can, or maybe I mean I take it as humorous, right? It may have not been uh, in a joking context when Jesus said that to him, but looking back, it's like, dude, this guy just said if you can to God.
Yeah.
And
if you can, to the person who could do literally anything.
Yeah. And then also verse 24 where the Father says, I believe, help my unbelief. Like I think those three verses are very powerful.
Yeah, that's good, bro. And
so that's my current favorite.
Yeah.
Because I've mentioned it so much. I've mentioned it so much these past few months.
Those are some good verses, bro. Yeah. My favorite is Jeremiah 29:11. Actually, I think I have it on my home screen. But it says, for I, the Lord, know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper and to give you hope in the future, because many times in life we feel hopeless, we feel hopeless in life, and we feel like everything's not going to work out, and God's punishing us and stuff like that. But right here in Jeremiah 29:11, it tells you that God already has plans for you, and that he's gonna give you hope in the future. Like you don't have to worry. So like reading that scripture during hard times is always something that'll like boost you up and make you, remember and feel that, that God is there for you and God is good, It's a great verse. Yeah. Yeah, bro.
So we're gonna end it off there.
Yeah, we can end it off there. It was.
Do you have any other questions you want to ask, or?
Let me see if.
Oh my gosh, tune in, man.
Oh, last question.
Last question. All right.
Who's your biggest role model in your faith walk, and why?
So this is like Christian influencers.
Yeah, like Christian influencers, anybody, who and why?
Role model.
Yeah. Someone you look up to, like when you.
Like I'd want to be more like them when it comes to.
Yeah. Like you want to be more like them, or you want to have the same impact that they're having.
I like Bryce Crawford. There's Avery that's a God Logic. And I think of in the same way. I want people to see how the change that Christ has through me, or I whatever my grammar. Because of that, also like George Janko, because I know like if you look at, like, you could see like his development of his faith, right? But I think probably Bryce Crawford.
Yeah, Bryce Crawford. Yeah, man.
Not because he's the greatest preacher ever, but I think there's like this. I don't know him. Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, Bryce Crawford. I would say for me, it's probably Pastor Phil Anthony Mitchell.
Yeah.
Him and my mom. Like, honestly, my mom, because it's just like the faith that she has. It's just crazy. Like, she just loves the Lord so much.
Bro, that pastor's like crazy. He's good.
That's who I look up to. His faith and how he's just raw with it. It's just.
The one thing though is, like obviously, our only idol should be God, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But in the way we're looking at these people as role models, we're looking at them in what we see, right? They could be struggling too, right? Like I'm not know. So I'm not gonna put these people up on a pedestal, but from what I see, I want to develop like that.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, guys. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Thank you, bro. Hey, John finally got interviewed for the first time. So,
all right,
guys. You guys enjoy.
Peace.